Alright guys, today I'm bringing you a video with all the locations of the legendary hunts in Borderlands 3. This video will show you the locations of the legendary hunts as well as how some of the enemies act, because some of them have quite special traits. Each legendary hunt boss has an increased chance to drop a specific legendary, and those will be listed in the description below. In the description you'll also find timestamps to each legendary boss in case you're searching for a specific one to make your lives easier. As well as this, in the single playthrough, if you defeat all legendary hunts, you'll be rewarded with the Becker, which is a legendary Jacob's assault rifle. But with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. First up is a badass Valkid by the name of Lavender Crawly, who is found in the Draughts on Pandora. Once Crawly's health bar hits 0, she will pod, and the result of this pod will be 2 adult Valkids. And once you do enough damage to these adult Valkids, they will again pod, and the results of these pods will be 2 normal Valkids each. Each of these 4 normal Valkids have an increased chance to drop the legendary SMG, known as the Predatory Lending. The next legendary hunt is a returning enemy from Borderlands 2 known as Skrakk, and can be found in the Ascension Bluff. Identical to its counterpart in Borderlands 2, this is a Skag with Rack's wings, so it's a flying Skag. This can make it a very annoying boss because it has the health of a badass Skag, but can also fly like a Rack. Skrakk has an increased chance to drop the legendary pistol known as the SkekSil. Up next is a badass spider ant known as Antalope, and can be found on the Devil's Razor. It only has something special about it aesthetically, and that's its antlers. And this boss can drop the legendary sniper rifle known as the ASMD. The next legendary hunt is a badass Rack known as the Phoenix, and can be found on the Splinterlands. What's special about this enemy is when you kill it the first time, it will drop to the floor and burrow. As a result of this burrow, it will rise from the ashes like a phoenix, and it will respawn with full health. You'll want to once again kill it, and it will again drop to the floor and burrow, and then it will again rise from the ashes and respawn with full health. But after killing it a third time, it will stay dead for good, and it has an increased chance to drop the legendary artifact known as Phoenix Tears. The halfway legendary hunt is a badass Valkid by the name of Manvark, and can be found on Conrad's Hold. A tip for farming this enemy is you want to spawn in at the slaughter shaft, which first needs to be discovered when you're in Conrad's Hold. From here, you want to use the travel point to go into Conrad's Hold, and when you're in Conrad's Hold, you'll find that you're right by where Manvark spawns. This makes it easier because it means you don't have to run through the entirety of Conrad's Hold in order to farm Manvark. What's special about Manvark is when its health bar hits 0, it will pod, and a result of this pod will be a Tink known as Tinkvark. Killing this Tink will spawn 3 normal Valkids known as Manvark with a question mark. One of these when killed will pod, and the result of this pod will again be Manvark, and killing Manvark this time will ultimately kill it for good, and has an increased chance to drop the legendary sniper rifle known as the Headsplosion. Number 6 is a badass Ratch known as Chupacabratch, who can be found on Athenas. There's nothing really special about this legendary hunt, it's just a badass Ratch, and when you kill it, it will have an increased chance to drop the legendary grenade mod known as the Chupa's Organ. The next legendary hunt is known as Chonk Stomp, and can be found on the Floodmoor Basin. A tip similar to Manvark: to farm this enemy, you want to first spawn in at the Anvil, and then from here you want to use the travel point to travel to Floodmoor Basin. Once you're in the Floodmoor Basin, then you can walk forward a couple steps and you'll hit a spawn point, and you can use this spawn point in order to farm Chonk Stomp. There's nothing really special about this enemy other than it's one of the badass dinosaurs, and once you defeat it, it has an increased chance to drop the legendary shotgun known as the Garcia. The next enemy is a Jabber known as Jabbermogwai, and can be found on the Voracious Canopy. This enemy is actually a reference to the Mogwais in the movie Gremlins, which means if you hit the Jabbermogwai with any form of cryo splash damage, then they'll split into 2. So 1 will become 2, and then 2 become 4, so on and so forth. The Jabbermogwai has an increased chance to drop the legendary SMG known as the Hellfire, but this will only drop from the original Jabbermogwai. So your best bet for farming this enemy is to not let it duplicate and just kill it straight off the bat. The penultimate legendary hunt is known as Blinding Banshee, and can be found on Desolation's Edge. There's nothing really special about this enemy other than it's armored, so you'll want to bring a corrosive weapon in order to deal with this effectively. And it has an increased chance to drop the unique shotgun known as the Shrieking Devil. The final legendary hunt is known as Broodmother, and can be found on the Pyre of Stars. There's nothing really special about Broodmother other than it doesn't seem to respawn after you kill it for the first time, so by extension it doesn't have an increased chance to drop anything because you can't effectively farm it. And that's it for the video guys, I hope you found this useful. Just a word of advice: if you're looking to knock out all of these legendary hunts, then you'll want to first complete the entire story, purely because the final legendary hunt is found just before the final boss in the story. But other than that, see you in the next video.